Step aside, boys, and let the big dog work his magic.
How
We are live. How about you, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Live call-in show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. Today is Sunday, April the 21st, 2024, and we've got a fantastic show for you because the callers will dictate our show. We're going to get to the phone lines as soon as possible, 701-779-9585. We're going to take your questions, going to address your comments. Here to do it all with me, Mr. Cole Pinkston and Mr. Allen Head. How about you, fellas?
How about you?
about you, big dog?
About you, by George. We are going to get to the phone line. Auburn got a commitment today from transfer defensive lineman Philip Bleedy. Could possibly get another one on Monday as Isaiah Rakes, the former Texas A&M defensive tackle who chose USC over Auburn in January, re-entered the portal. He will announce the decision on Monday. And then you've got Keyron Crawford, the Arkansas State edge, arrived on campus today. He will leave Tuesday morning. A lot going on with the transfer portal. We're going to try to hit it all if that is what you're wanting to hear. We're going to get to the phone lines. Before we do, if you're in or around Auburn, Opelika County, and you're looking to move, you're looking to buy a house, maybe even an investment property, do that flip. Look no further for the help you need. Miss Jessica Andrews with the Talents Group. Give her a call, 334-704-4442. A lot of fours, but she is a 5-star realtor. If you don't believe me, just ask Mr. Allen Head. He'll tell you. Give her a call, folks. She is fantastic. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Cross my heart and to the sky. Jessica Andrews with the Talents Group, 334-704-4442. Tell her we sent you. All right. Quick initial thoughts before we get to the phone lines, fellas. Philip Bleedy commits to Auburn today over LSU, over Washington. He shunned Oklahoma. He shunned Missouri. Flirted a little bit with Oregon. Signed with Auburn. 1-year guy, 3-tech. Good or bad, Mr. Allen Head?
Good. I mean, we talked about this. We needed at minimum to bring in 2 interior defensive line in this transfer portal cycle. The depth just wasn't where the coaching staff wanted it to be, and I don't think it was anything that you or I or anyone else that kind of saw this team was necessarily comfortable with moving forward. So getting a guy that's had competitive reps at the Power 5 level in 2 different leagues, because obviously he's transferred from Texas Tech to Indiana, so he's had significant snaps in the Big 12, and then also has had big snaps in the Big 10 as well. So he's played really good competition at this point. I think by the on-3 measurement, he is the number 3 interior defensive lineman in this cycle. So he's a quality pickup. And obviously, you talk about the teams that you were competing against to get this young man. But to me, and I want to hear Cole's opinion on this, it's going to be interesting to see what the defensive line room is going to look like as far as from a position standpoint. Because if you get Philip Bleedy, who's a 3-tech, and say if you're lucky enough to pick Isaiah Rakes up tomorrow, well, now what does that do to the players that are behind them? Can you take the young man that transferred in from Texas who's predominantly been playing 1-tech and he moved to 3-tech? Can you put Gage Keys out at 5-tech behind Falk? You know what I mean? So have you just gotten now where you've got 6 players across the board that all have competitive reps in the Power 5 level, or Power 4 now, I guess is what I should be saying. There is no more Power 5. God bless you, Pac-12. But Cole, what do you think, man? I mean, how big of a pickup was this, and how can this like reshape the line with where Trill Carter plays, Jason Jones? What are you thinking?
Yeah, as far as need, it's a big pickup. I mean, look, if you're not going to go get this, if you're not going to go get just a massive guy like a perceived to be like Walter Nolan, like a guy like that, somebody that is a superstar, probably an NFL guy. I think Philip Bleedy might be an NFL guy, but I don't think he's that good. As good as Walter Nolan. I think he's good.
Mm-hmm.
He's another piece, and to me, that's what you're having to do right now. You're having to do it. You're in a situation where your defensive line is, it's in a place where it's got to have more people, more guys, more rotation, and I think he's starter level for this defense right now at 3. I don't see another 3 that's really better than him on the roster. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet, which is crazy to say for a guy who's played a lot of football like he has. There's some things I think he could really get better at. Not a great guy, not great against the double team, which is something we've talked about a lot. Auburn's got to be better at that. But he's playing 3 for Auburn. If he was playing nose, I'd be a little bit worried. But he's not. He played some nose in Indiana, but look, they don't have 5 300-pounders rolling in there in Indiana. It's just what they're dealt with. He's going to be a 3. I think he'll be perfect. That's his niche. I think he's a good pass rusher from the interior. I like a lot of things about him. I think he can get better too. And, when your competition gets better, I think you get better too. A lot of guys do that. So I love it. I think it's a great pickup. Got to have it. Absolutely crucial.
Jeffrey, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was cursing. Well, speaking of the nose, we'll find out tomorrow. Isaiah Rakes appears to be number 1 on Auburn's board. He's going to have a decision on Monday. We haven't heard anything about him since he entered the portal, and I think there was a big reason why. And I think the timing of this announcement, you get Bleedy in on Sunday, not to scare him away, by getting another defensive lineman, although you think Rakes is more of a nose.
Yep.
Bleedy's more of a 3. But I think everything was almost premeditated. Isaiah Rakes' recruitment as it looks to be premeditated. I mean, the kid was in Auburn in January, so he knows he didn't need a visit. And, anyways, he'll make his decision on Monday. Keyron Crawford, the edge, could have his decision soon thereafter. We think Auburn's the team to beat for both of those guys. I know Cole and I both have RPM predictions on both of those guys to land at Auburn. All right, Zach in the back came to the front for a reason.
Oh, yeah. Popular tonight. 6 callers on the line, but we'll start with the guy who always kicks off the show, Kevin from Wilmer. Kevin, you're live, man.
Kevin from Wilmer, Alabama.
What's up, Kevin?
How about you, Kevin?
I got 3 questions for you, Jeffrey Lee.
Okay, Kevin from Wilmer, Alabama. What you got? What you got, big boy?
I think Caleb Burton will have 20 touchdowns.
Caleb Burton with 20 touchdowns. Okay, who else you got, Kevin?
And Jaquez Hunter will have 27 touchdowns.
Oh, match his jersey number. And your final one?
And Cam Coleman will have 28.
Oh. So there's 675 touchdowns between those 3 right there. But I like the optimism.
Kevin's got some Techno Bowl numbers going on tonight, baby.
Last week he had he's upped his he had Perry at 4 or 5, I think. He's had Bryce Kane with 20. Cam at 18.
And I think Perry Thompson will score 26 touchdowns.
26?
Yeah.
Okay. Add another 2 dozen on top of those for Kevin from Wilmer. Kevin
and Ryan
And I think
called in last week.
Peyton Thorne will scores about 7 touchdowns.
rushing touchdowns for Peyton Thorne. Or Kevin might see him throwing it to himself. Ain't that right, Kevin?
And they could do a quarterback sneak.
The old reliable.
Sugar. We called it sugar. That's what we called it.
Sugar. Okay.
I'll
That's it
talk
right
to
there.
you later, y'all.
What'd you say, buddy?
He said he'll talk to us later.
I'll talk to you later, y'all.
Hey, we'll talk to you next week, big dog.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate you, buddy. Kevin is the quintessential Auburn hopeful. Seeing everything with those orange and blue glasses on. Optimist, seeing the good in everybody, seeing their potential. Potential. We like it. Kevin is a great leadoff for the show. We treasure Kevin. We treasure him.
Very much so. Very much so. That is what I look forward to on my Sunday night. When we start off with Kevin, you know that we're always going to have a really good show. So hopefully we'll have a few more banger questions in there somewhere.
Kevin's the leadoff who drives it in the opposite field and gets on base, you know?
I hear you.
You know, he always leads off with a single. Sometimes he'll hit that triple.
Yeah, no doubt in that gap for sure.
Tonight he hit that. He hit it in the gap, but he got caught trying to stretch it to a double. Good stuff, Kevin. We appreciate you, Big Dog. Look forward to hearing from you again next week. Is that who you got, Big Dog?
Got a good number 2 caller on the line. We got Anthony on the line. Anthony, you're live.
I like it.
This is a good one.
Fellas, Anthony from Montgomery.
Oh, Smitty.
What's up?
How y'all doing tonight?
Anthony, we're doing fantastic, Big Dog. How are you?
Pretty good. What's the question for tonight, Jalen?
You know what? I was thinking about that while Kevin was talking, and I wanted to put this to the corner so we could get some suggestions. I'm out of everything PG-13 and under.
Oh man.
Do you have one?
What about chaser with your alcohol? Favorite chaser.
Favorite
chaser with something.
What favorite what?
Chaser. Like
With your drink. With your bird.
You know what? I'm proud to say I don't do the chasing. I quit that when I was about 17. I'm a neat guy. I'm a neat guy. Pour me a little bourbon in a glass and send me home.
Bro, I'm weak. I gotta have a chaser, man. I'm gonna be honest with you.
What's yours, Alan? I almost said J-Head.
Bro, whatever I keep and Anthony, if you call me J-Head, you know, we're gonna let that go. You don't need to put any money in the drawer. We're good.
He's got the pass.
I'm gonna throw 15 because I stopped myself right for it.
I know you did, big dog. Realistically, man, whatever's closest. I don't care. I am not a liquor guy at all, man. And so anytime I gotta have a little something afterwards.
if you don't do a chaser, can you like your mixer? What's your mixer? Can we go with that?
I understood that as almost you take it either way.
Okay, so I'll give you 2. Now I don't drink anymore. I swore it all off. But when I was probably 16, because I didn't know any better, Sundrop and Old Forester were my go-to.
Sundrop.
Yeah.
That is
orange drink?
listen. You don't understand what he's talking about, Jeffrey, because that is a South Alabama thing. I don't know what it is. Like right across the state, people below like Montgomery.
85.
Don't know what Sundrop is, do they?
Is
I'm telling
Sundrop
you.
orange drink?
No, it's like a 7-Up or a Sprite or
Mountain Dew or something like that.
Yeah,
Mellow,
okay.
Mellow Yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, in my
Yellow.
in my formative years, right when I was first starting college, that was the go-to. And then as I got a little bit older,
Listen, some folks I know out there in Luverne and Highland Home,
oh, bro,
they kill some Sundrop, man.
that's my part of the world, son.
Well, they don't
Makes
have
sense.
any Zen 3s out there. I went all over Luverne and Highland Home. Nobody had a Zen 3. This was last week too.
But probably Crown and Coke as I got older.
Okay. Cole's the beer man.
I am. Yeah. I don't do a lot of liquor. If I was going to do it, it's probably going to be Sprite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zach in the front.
I don't drink anymore, but when I did, it was Crown Apple and Coke.
Oof,
That was always the go-to.
Oh, the Crown Apple flavored.
I thought you were going
Yeah.
to say, but when I do, it's
Yeah, right.
Now, listen, to be fair, I've had maybe a sip of, I don't drink much anymore. I didn't even drink at our get together.
Look at you.
I told you, man, I'm too old for that stuff.
No, man, being hungover in the morning at the age of 40, bro, it's yeah.
Can't do it. Can't do it. That is
yeah.
well
Jeffrey was
past
making
me.
fun of me the whole time because I was I had a couple. I mean, I didn't have nothing crazy.
Hey,
You
hey,
did good.
He said,
hey, look, Cole, you're allowed, man. But when my kiddo wakes up in the morning and I got that hangover, he doesn't understand, man. And so, I you know, and Daddy hurts a lot more at this age than he did about
You have
6
to
years
keep it
ago.
down. You're going to have to keep it down.
We're gonna need to
That's
turn on the iPad today,
All right.
big dog.
Well, if
Cut
you're feeling
that light off.
Yep.
if you want to throw in your drink of choice, how about that? Your drink of choice. We'll make that tonight, and we'll do better next week on our personal question of the week. The POW of the Q is silent. All right, Zach. Oh, Anthony, what's up, big dog? We ain't even got to Anthony yet.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Juju Lewis tonight, and I want y'all to tell. Maybe I might be overthinking it. I put a lot of thought into this, so I want y'all to follow me. Tell me, am I tripping? So I feel like Juju Lewis could end up determining Hugh Freeze's whole tenure at Auburn, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
I feel like if you bring Juju, like I'm on the fence if I want him to come to Auburn or not, because I feel like so much rides on it, and I don't know if it's worth the squeeze. So let me explain why I say this. I feel like if you bring Juju Lewis in, I know you guys can't say this, but I can. It's gonna cost a lot of money, and he's gonna want guarantees. So I feel like if you bring Juju in, and he probably won't start year one out the gate, because I don't see this kid come to Auburn and on the bench. So if you bring Juju in, you run the risk of losing your quarterback room. And not only that, I feel like if you bring him in and he succeeds, it's going to prepare Auburn to new heights, because you're going to be able to get a top-notch quarterback, because I do feel like he's probably the best quarterback in the nation. You bring him in, you're going to get a top-notch quarterback, and that can push, even though Hugh Freeze is recruiting well, it's going to push Auburn further into the future where big-time quarterbacks and big-time athletes feel like, hey, I can come to Auburn and we can do something special. Whereas if you bring Juju in and let's say he transfer, then it's going to set us back. Because, A, you're probably going to lose your quarterback. You might not lose Walker White, because I can see him, well, I ain't going to say you might not, but I can see him not leaving. But I feel like if you bring Juju in and something happens where he don't succeed, it's going to set us back years also. So do y'all feel like, my question is, do y'all feel like Juju is worth the squeeze if you can get him in? And that's my question.
Appreciate you, big dog, Anthony. Let's see. It's a tough one, man. Here's why it's tough for me. Like, I don't know firsthand why this kid would be a problem. I don't. I've heard everything everybody else said. The only interaction I've had with him was about 5 or 6 seconds when he was leaving Auburn, and he was very polite and he was ready to do an interview. But the red flag was that his dad cut him off and was like, "No, we're not talking." So I have seen that. But as far as that goes, like, and I see a lot of what Anthony's trying to say too. I mean, not even what he's trying to say, but what he's saying.
I don't have a problem with saying, like what you just said, we got cut off before on an interview. And I was at Under Armour camp. I got cut off by who referred as his handler. Now, depending on how you feel about that, it is what it is. I mean, it ain't a secret. He's got a handler, and he don't want us talking to him. So I don't know what to think of the kid. I don't know anything about him. I've never been close to him.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So as far as we know,
I don't think he's a problem. He hadn't been kicked off of any team, nothing like that.
Right.
Just he seems to have an entourage with him that does not like to be interviewed, and it's a little bit flashy, I guess you would call it. Well, you know who else was flashy that played for Auburn and did some good things at Auburn? Cam Newton.
Sure did.
Very flashy guy. Very different. Kind of out there when it comes to some things. So could it work? Sure it could. And I agree with Anthony. This guy, Juju Lewis, as far as mechanics, as far as talent, arm talent, readability, everything that it comes with being a quarterback, that dude's good, man. He's probably the best in the country. He's probably the best.
He is without doubt the most accurate quarterback in the country in the high school ranks, period. And I mean, I've watched cut-ups of all the top guys, and I promise you, he's, you know what I mean, when they talk about him having a little bit of Bryce to him, he 100% does. As far as his ability to layer throws and to be accurate and to put the ball in places that you're able to have run after the catch. I mean, he's elite in that part.
Yeah.
I don't know Juju. I have asked around, and everything I've heard is he's a good kid, but that the people around him want to control the narrative. Like a lot of athletes in this space right now, they are very conscious of what gets out there as it pertains to the message around him, what he's choosing to do, and how he's characterized. And I think in today's social media age, I kind of understand that. You know, it's difficult, I think, sometimes to be an athlete in today's space. Do I wish that it were different? Yes, because I know the people that he would be providing an interview to here from Auburn, and I know the quality of their work. But I can understand where you're trying to make sure that you have a go-between there that establishes what message gets out. Now, back to Anthony's question. Do we worry that, think back to Texas A&M, Kevin Sumlin, a guy by the name of Kyler Murray. Do you remember how that situation played out and how he left Texas A&M for Oklahoma, became another disciple for Lincoln Riley, went on to the NFL and has done good things, and how that just seemed to be the absolute missile that torpedoed Kevin Sumlin's career? Because after that, Texas A&M was pretty much moving forward underneath his tenure anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He went on to Arizona, lasted about 3 years, got fired there, and now I think he's like an offensive coordinator at Maryland, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, Anthony, but I think this kid would come in here with the right mindset and ready to compete. I think he'd have to beat out Walker White and whoever else you're going to have in that quarterback room. I do think that it limits you from bringing in a transfer quarterback. That much I will say. I think if you bring in Juju Lewis in this class, there is no transfer quarterback. Not unless you're bringing in
even if one leaves tomorrow.
If one leaves tomorrow, I mean, no, because you're not he's not on campus yet, so you probably could get away with it. But I just don't know, man, what that camp is comfortable with having. I think they are comfortable with looking at things the way they are now. You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's some promise there that you're not going to be bringing in, you're not going to be recruiting over the kid's head if you're bringing him into this class. If you're doing it before he gets on campus, that's one thing. After he's signed and in the class, I think it's a completely different deal, specifically in this cycle.
The reason I brought that up is because if somebody leaves tomorrow or this week, Auburn's down to 3 scholarship quarterbacks for this season.
Right.
Now,
you got to bring one.
If you can bring in a guy like Jaden Rashada, who's been linked to Auburn potential visit, I think that was Matt Zenitz from 24/7 said, or somebody did, I can't remember. Hayes, it might have been Hayes Fawcett. I believe it was Hayes.
It was Hayes.
But nobody's going to have a better quarterback situation for an incoming freshman than Auburn next year. Out goes Peyton Thorne. Everybody's pretty much on the same page. You've got a 3-year guy in Henry, Hank Brown, a 2-year guy in Walker White, and presumably, Holden Gardner or somebody else who've yet to take meaningful snaps.
Correct. So I think they would be okay with that. Again, that's not recruiting. That's not signing Juju and then going out and getting, Cam Ward all of a sudden.
Yeah, right. A 2-year guy or even, yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you, with the amount of resource that you're probably going to have to put into Juju, I don't know that you would have. I mean, I think you're making a decision. Do I bring in a transfer or do I bring in Juju Lewis if that's who you're able to get in this class? Same situation at Nebraska last year with the Raiola kid. They were hot and heavy on a transfer. I'm trying to think the kid from Ohio State that Auburn took a little bit of a look at. They were well down the road with him. And then as soon as Raiola was in that class, nope.
You're talking about McCord?
Yep, Kyle McCord. I mean, they were well down the road in that conversation with him. And before he ended up, I think, signing with Syracuse, if I remember correctly, after everything fell apart with Nebraska. So I think it's one of those kind of situations where you're telling him, like, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to come in here and compete. We're not going to recruit over your head. You're going to have to battle for it with the guys that we have on the roster. We're not giving you anything, but we're also not going to bring in somebody that's going to play over you from day one because of what we're going to have to promise to get that person here.
I think that's fair. Anthony always brings the good talking points. Appreciate you, big dog, Anthony.
2552. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? This is Hunter, a.k.a. Feel the Barn from Austin, Texas. How are y'all?
Feel the barn.
What's up, big dog?
I love that name.
It's nice.
Appreciate it. Hey, it'd be tough to not call in and talk a little bit about the D-line with everything we got going on. Jeffrey and Cole, y'all were pretty quick to put those picks in after he tweeted out that he was going to be announcing tomorrow. I guess maybe speak a little bit more to that, or I know y'all don't like to just throw picks in willy-nilly, so curious what the thought process was there, if y'all are getting some good intel. Just curious what your thoughts are on that. Appreciate y'all. Love the show. I'll hang up and listen to you.
All right, Hunter.
Awesome.
fair enough, man. Cole and I talked about it earlier in the day, and I didn't at the time. We didn't know have a timeline, but we were even saying, man, this recruitment has been so suspicious. Rakes entered he's talking about Isaiah Rakes, by the way. Isaiah Rakes, transfer. He's from USC now, but he was at Texas A&M back in January. He came to Auburn. He was transferring, and he chose USC over Auburn. Well, here we are 4 months later. He's back in the transfer portal. It only makes sense. He hasn't said a word since entering the transfer portal. Nobody has had anything on Isaiah Rakes. No visits, no contacts, no here's who he's hearing from. So it's been rather suspicious, and it all kind of made sense. I think it all kind of came together for me, Hunter. It was like, we haven't heard anything on Rakes. I know there's interest. I know there's a lot of interest from Auburn's side. It just makes sense. And I think Cole, maybe last week, it was almost like, this is almost too perfect, right? I mean, it just makes too much sense. And we kept waiting for something to kind of impede this line of thought that, I mean, it's too easy. If you know how to read the tea leaves, it's, well, he's coming to Auburn. Well, why hasn't we heard anything? And then it all kind of makes sense that Bleedy was announcing today, and that kind of lined up for me. Like, okay, they wanted to get Bleedy in, and then because they were going to get Rakes. We know now, looking back at it, at least, Rakes. They felt very good about Rakes. They didn't want to put it out there and scare anything Bleedy away. Now that they've got Bleedy in, it's almost like Isaiah Rakes was given the green light by Auburn to go ahead and announce. And again, well, I don't know this. I think Cole's got more information on this than I do, but just reading the tea leaves, it just kind of all added up. And when he put out that tweet that I'm announcing tomorrow, right after or right before Bleedy announced, it was lined up. It was the last peg in the hole.
Yeah, I think for me, with Rakes, I said on the show last week, when it's in this business, when it's so obvious, sometimes you almost want to run away from that. Like it's a little scary sometimes. That's too good to be true, too obvious,
too
easy. Yeah, I think in this case though, I think obvious is okay, just because of what Jeffrey said. There's tea leaves there that make sense. I mean, listen, Rakes was DJ Durkin's nose guard in his defense. Yeah. Okay. It's no coincidence that DJ Durkin's on staff now. It wouldn't be a coincidence if he were to commit to Auburn on Monday. Okay, because of that. But also because of the relationships he's already made. Look, he doesn't have to take a visit. And we haven't heard about visits or anything. And if that's the case, and he's going to go ahead and make a decision without visiting anywhere, it's Auburn, I think.
Well, and if it's not Auburn, the only other school that even makes sense, in my opinion, when a kid's doing this, it's because he's got connections somewhere, right? The only other school that makes sense to me at all is Syracuse, where Elijah Robinson, his former defensive line coach at Texas A&M underneath DJ Durkin, is now the defensive coordinator at Syracuse. The kid's from the Northeast originally, I believe, New Jersey. So it's one of those two for me. I trust y'all's intel explicitly on this one. I have nothing. But it would only make sense to me. He's going to go one of two places where he's got connections and he's visited before. So those are the two that stick out to me. And we're not just talking about, like you mentioned DJ Durkin, but the assistant defensive line coach at Auburn. I'm trying to think of his name right now off the top of my head, and I'm failing miserably. Zach, help me out here. But he also was at A&M. There's other A&M staffers that came over that are also analysts for this staff now. So there are 100% connections to Auburn beyond just DJ Durkin, but it's his last year. He feels comfortable playing in this defense. He knows what the expectation is. He can come in and be an immediate starter and contributor for this defense. So it makes a lot of sense to me, especially back in the SEC, where he's going to be playing competition that's probably going to be, if he's got ambition to play in the pros, you're going to get an opportunity to play guys that are 100% going to have the opportunity to play in the NFL. So it would make a very logical move to me, in my opinion.
Fantastic stuff, Phil the Barn. Appreciate you subscribing to Auburn Live on 3 and paying attention.
4947. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Hey guys, Wardank here. Thank you for taking me, and thank you for what you do. Love the show. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, Wardank.
Crazy delay right now. Okay, so I'm just going to ask him a question real quick here and get off. Hey, so one of the other shows I listen to a lot, they seem to be operating on the assumption that Auburn's going to run a whole bunch of 12 personnel this season, which I kind of had to learn what that means, but apparently that's like a 1 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end set. And I just don't understand where they're coming from with this. And I just want to know, is that y'all's impression? Is that what we're doing? Are we doing 2 tight ends? Because I don't even feel like we're even that deep at tight ends. So just want your thoughts on that. I'll let you go. Thank you for everything.
Appreciate you, Ward Dank. Auburn ran a lot of 12 personnel last year.
Tons. And I would argue that Auburn is very deep at tight end.
Very. Probably the deepest position, wouldn't you say? As far as seniority and talent and experience.
Well, you're talking about reliability here. And you know that you were able to do the 12 personnel sets. And you got Luke Deal and Brandon Frazier have played 50 years of Auburn football, So, yeah, they're going to do that for sure. And it's part of the run game and having a heavier set. But it's not going to be the base offense anymore, I don't think. I think they're going to switch it up a lot more and have more receiver play, especially if they get one from the portal, like a Keandre Lambert-Smith, a Sam Brown, one of these big-time guys. That receiver room's got to be up to a certain point for Auburn to feel comfortable enough to get out of that 12 personnel world. But the 12 personnel kind of helps you out with the RPOs, and that's what Auburn's going to be doing a lot because it dictates the box. If they don't put 6 guys in the box, then you run on them all day. Well, when they do, then you can throw it. So that's the point here, and RPOs is the main part of the offense. Hopefully that makes sense, not trying to get too technical with it.
No, I mean, I think you made it perfect sense, Cole. And let me give credit to the show he's talking about here. He's talking about the War Report. I think exclusively Mike G and Ike have talked about that. So that's their reporting. If we do feature a lot of 12 personnel, it makes some sense to me because Rivaldo Fairweather, what's his best asset? He's a fantastic pass catcher, okay? You can play him like a big slot. I think their characterization of that might be a little bit skewed, but that's their information and they're right to air out what they think is going to happen. I tend to believe we're going to play a lot of 11 personnel. I think we'll feature some 12 for sure, but you're going to have multiple looks. That's the whole point of having a multiple offense is to make sure that you can do 11, 12, 13, even 10 personnel should you so choose to. You're going to want to make sure that you're mixing things up and that you're able to keep defenses, off guard a little bit. If you don't have different looks in today's world, realistically, you're too vanilla and you're teeing the defense up to know exactly what you're going to do. So you have to make sure that you're changing things up somewhat. So my expectation is that you're going to have a variety of different personnel groupings. I don't think it's going to be explicitly 12, explicitly 11, or 13, 10, what have you. I think it will be a good combination of the two, but I think it'll largely base out of 11 and 12 if I had to guess.
And for those listening who are almost like me, the numbers here are running backs, tight ends.
You got it.
On the field at the same time. So 1 and 2, 1 running back, 2 tight ends would be 12 personnel. 1 and 0 would be no tight ends. You're going to have a heavy wide receiver set there. So for anybody listening, that I think I just learned that last year.
Look at you, Jeffrey.
Hey, Cole came in, big dog. Good stuff, Wardank. Appreciate you, big dog.
5799.
Damn, that sounds awful, man.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but yeah, it's bad.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I appreciate it. I'm like a cackling jackal, man.
5799. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Ricky from Birmingham.
What's up, Ricky from Birmingham? What part of Birmingham, Ricky?
With like around the corner from Legion Field.
Okay. West End, big dog.
Just about College Fields in Illinois. I have 4 questions tonight.
Okay.
First question is, what are our chances to land the number 1 wide receiver in the portal? My second question, after watching A-Day, my prediction, Cam Coleman, SEC Freshman of the Year. Do y'all agree? My third question, what are our chances to get Juju Lewis, Caleb Cunningham, and Alvin Henderson? And my last question, Is there a chance college football can combine recruiting and transfer portal together?
Oh. All right, Ricky, we're going to do our best to answer those, and those are great questions.
Every one of them.
Did you write those down, Jeffrey?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. First question is Auburn's chances to land the top transfer wide receiver, which is Keandre Lambert-Smith from Penn State. He visited Auburn over the weekend. He's now in Texas A&M. I think he said he might visit Colorado this week during the week, and then he's going to USC on the weekend. Cole, you got some intel on Keandre Lambert-Smith after the visit. Tell us what you know or what you think about Auburn there.
Yeah, if I had to pick somebody today, I mean, yes, he's fresh off the Auburn visit, but I think A&M probably has a little momentum going into that visit, and A&M is going to be tough to beat, I think. I'm just being honest. That doesn't mean it won't happen, because I think, sometimes when they get a guy on campus and they spend some time with them, and then they look at things, they look at the whole structure of the roster and what they need, maybe they'll come back and say, you know what, we don't want to lose this one. And I get the feeling that Auburn's going to be that way with Keandre Lambert-Smith, and I we'll see. Right now, I'm projecting him elsewhere, but it could change. I'm not ready to make a call on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But right now, you take the field.
I take the field right now because, well, you talked to him in person, Jeffrey. You didn't get the feeling that he was just gung-ho going to Auburn.
He had a good time.
Sure.
I didn't feel like he was busting out of the seams or anything like that. He definitely wasn't like Philip Bleedy when I talked to him. I mean,
yeah.
So
his words jumped off the page. Bleedy did, so that makes sense. Family, he had that made sense with him being married, having a kid. That makes sense. Keandre Lambert-Smith. Sometimes I've learned in this NIL world, when a guy maybe doesn't seem as upbeat, or sometimes that's just their personality, or sometimes it means they didn't hear the number they wanted to hear. That's how it is.
Fair.
Yeah.
Is it possible that that's the case with Keandre Lambert-Smith? Maybe.
Sure.
I guarantee you this: if he goes to A&M, he's going to hear a number he wants to hear.
Right.
That's how I feel right now.
Let's see. Ricky's second question was Cam, freshman of the year in the SEC. I absolutely could see that. Who would be some other guys that could possibly be in the discussion? I'm trying to think.
Williams.
Ryan Williams would be a great one. Boy, wouldn't that be awesome?
Now, the worst thing for Cam Coleman would be Graham Mertz get hurt and DJ Lagway take over at Florida.
Yeah, that's
the worst case scenario for Cam getting that award.
That was my thought, because DJ looked good in their spring. It's a spring game, okay, but Lagway looked pretty good down there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking running back, wide receiver, quarterback. Those are going to be your positions that win.
It is, and it's going to be hard for me to pick somebody other than Cam, just because he's going to be so featured in this offense. You're trying to think of usage. When you think of freshman of the year, you're thinking of usage, not down the road potential, not will they make the NFL, who's going to get significant snaps this year. I think Tennessee's pretty loaded at wide receiver. I'm pretty high on Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, it's a stud.
But yeah, if it's Cam versus the field and it's April 21st right now and it's coming off the 8A performance he just had, I'll take Cam.
Yeah, I mean, I just Cam versus the field. I take Cam right now just because I know how he's going to be featured. I'm not quite sure. I need to read up on some other rosters and get myself positioned to know what freshmen are primed to compete or be featured in their offenses. But you're right about Lagway. That was the one that came to mind, Zach. That one jumped off the page to me.
Let's see, Ricky. Number 3 is Auburn's chances with Juju Lewis, Caleb Cunningham, Alvin Henderson. Juju Lewis is going to be taking visits in June. I don't know if he officially – Georgia's pretty much out. I think they got Ryan Montgomery, so they're pretty much out.
Yeah, I like our position in that one, but I'm not ready to go 50% yet, which I think is where you are, Jeffrey, but I like where we sit in that one. It's probably the one I like the best out of all those. I've probably got the highest percentage on Juju right now.
Juju, Caleb, Cunningham, it's going to be really tough as far as
I think we're in the top 3, but I think
Me
we're
too.
towards the bottom of the top
too.
3, if I'm being honest.
And Alvin, I could see. I would probably have him up there just because he could go either way. Is there so many other factors to his recruitment? He's already said he's going to watch Auburn this fall. Well, why is he going to watch Auburn this fall? Well, how are they utilizing the running back? And if he likes what he sees, my percentage obviously is going to go up. I expect him to. I still have him in this class. I do.
It's
but
layered.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's layered with him though, right?
Oh
You-
yeah. Oh,
you know,
it's a 12-layer cake.
It's layered with him, and then does Auburn land somebody in the interim? And that's what I don't know. That they're like, all right, we're good. And so I don't know, where that one's going to go. If he's going to be that guy they're going to chase to the very last second. Cole, what do you think?
My new thing is I want to start poking holes in narratives, and I want to start making cliches more clear. All right. The
Okay.
cliche here is there's 8 months left. There's a long way to go. That's the cliche. That's what we would always say. All right. The reason we say that is because Alvin Henderson is from Elba, Alabama.
Yes.
Okay. What happens to these guys, especially in the state of Alabama, it's a little different than some other places. If you ever played football in Alabama, you know that. As it gets down the stretch, they realize, man, Penn State's a long way from home. Or Auburn really wants me and it's right down the road. Mom can come see me play. Everybody, whatever. That's what happens a lot. It happens a lot. And it all these other factors that you thought you committed to seem a little bit less important when you get down the stretch. I don't think Auburn's going to give up on Alvin Henderson. And for that reason, and the other reasons I just mentioned, yes, I'd say Alvin Henderson's the highest for me on that list.
Cole, you took verbatim. That was exactly what I said to Jeffrey when you were out of Wednesday's show a couple weeks back. That was my exact quote. Proximity to home matters for these kids. It doesn't matter as much right now, but as you near the end of that senior year and you've played your last game and you start to think about, what is Penn State? 12 hours away from home?
But you've got to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours to Atlanta. You've got to go through security. You've got to do all that. You got to make the flight. You got to get off. You got to do this.
Right.
It's a lot.
We're not talking, and take money off the table of what it takes to travel, because obviously NIL that some kids receive helps mitigate the travel budget, but it doesn't help the number of hours you have to travel to get there every Saturday that you want to watch your kid play. And it doesn't change the amount of travel you got to make when you want to get home when you want to.
Or,
go ahead.
Sometimes mama goes, all right, you had your fun.
Yeah.
Time to stay closer to home. It happens a lot.
Yep.
And now I am not at all saying he's not going to go with Penn State. He very well could and might, maybe more likely. But again, with the cliche, we have a long way to go. I know how this thing goes. Basically, we need to check back on this later. It's not going to make sense to really look too hard into it right now. It's going to make more sense later.
No, I agree. But I still say, man, I don't know. I know they love the kid. I don't know that they're going to wait though. Because if somebody else wants to get in the boat, that's the thing that scares me about him. Because for me, it's going to come down to the last second with him. Mm-hmm. You're not getting him to flip in July. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's flipping December-ish, and it's Auburn already full at that point. And that's the hard thing for me to project right now.
Of those three, I would have Alvin at 55 because I still think he ends up at Auburn just right now.
Right.
I still got Juju at 50, and I've got Caleb Cunningham at maybe 25.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think that's maybe 30 with Cunningham. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, whatever, somewhere around that range.
Right.
By the way, on our recruiting show, I think I said 25% on Juju.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 40 today.
Okay. Welcome to my world, Cole.
Come on in, big dog. The water's warm.
Were you at 40?
Yeah, that's what I said tonight and what I said last week. But like the Jeffersons, baby, we moving on up. I hear you, Cole.
Yeah. Moving on up. Yep, I'm with you.
Alan, this is a good one for you because it's above my pay grade. But Ricky's final question was transfer portal recruiting. Is there a way to merge this into one? No, it's
No.
not. I don't think so. I couldn't come up with anything.
No. What I would love for them to do is make one consolidated transfer portal window so
Yeah.
that you could streamline things. And I do think that transfer portal recruiting has hurt high school recruiting in the sense that kids that used to be Power 5 guys now, I mean, look, we see it at Auburn. Schools save spots for the portal sometimes because they know they have more of an immediate need. And it's truly impacted high school recruiting.
Yeah.
What I would love to see is them make one consolidated window after the spring where you have all your transfer portal entries then and have a dedicated high school window leading into that so that kids could, you could know better about what's going to be on your roster. But that'll never happen. And no, I don't think they can. Not unless it's something that's collectively bargained together. And that's what we're moving towards.
Sure.
I read a wonderful article by Ross Dellinger today where he interviewed the attorney for the House case. And essentially, I mean, I think that case is going to kind of determine what the path forward is for athlete compensation. And the leading, I guess, solution to this is conferences collectively bargaining with each individual school and setting aside a pot of money for their collectives, and or if collectives are able to be moved inside universities for them to work together hand in hand. And because conferences are private entities, they can make their own rules within that conference and not necessarily be picked apart like the NCAA is and taken to court every 5 seconds.
Right.
And once they enter into collective bargaining and they agree to that set of rules with the conference, well, now you can't sue every time you have an issue with what your compensation necessarily is. So, no, I don't think it can be. Long answer. Would I love for it to see it be consolidated into separate windows? Yes. Who knows what the future is going to hold? It's going to change in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we're rapidly moving towards something that looks significantly different in college football.
5 years from now, go ahead, Zach.
I must say, all the reports are that the transfer portal in high school recruiting, even within the department, is going to move further away from each other. Where you're going to have a general manager of a roster like an NFL team, and you're going to have a high school scouting team and a transfer scouting team. And the transfer scouting team is scouting other teams throughout the year to try to be ready for the portal. That way, when the portal window opens, you have your list of
They're
prospects.
ready.
Like Auburn already has their list of like 2025, 2026 guys. Auburn would have a roster of Arizona State guys, Boston College guys that they want in the portal that next year.
I would tell you, Zach, that's already happening. And I'm not talking about exclusively at Auburn. I'm telling you that there are a lot of universities, specifically the competitive ones, already have 2 dedicated departments that are doing that.
Ricky, fantastic call, man. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you calling in. Good stuff.
2338. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Good morning or good afternoon, y'all. This
Wake
is
up, big
Wyatt
dog.
from Coral Springs, Florida. First time caller. How y'all doing today?
Fairly well. We're just waking up. Hey, I was talking over you. What's your name from Coral Springs?
Elias.
Elias. Oh.
Elias.
Oh.
I like that.
Not Elyss, like the Georgia tight end commitment.
The recruit, yeah.
But I just wanted to talk football. I've needed it lately.
All
but
right.
yeah, I know I'm beating the dead horse here, but I want to talk about Peyton Thorne a little.
Okay.
Bring it.
Personally, I think Hugh Freeze can get him to an above average SEC QB. I don't think he's going to stand out in any certain aspect of the game. I think he can get around about 2,400 yards, get around 20 touchdowns. I think we can win a couple of games. And I think Jarquez Hunter will go over 1,000 yards this season.
Okay. You think anybody
I've
will?
also seen nothing no one's really talked about is the fact that we have 8 home games this season. And personally, I think we can play anybody at home. I mean, you saw after Texas A&M, after we looked awful and then came and then led Georgia most of the game. I think we win a couple games, home games. I think we can at least win minimum 7. I think we have the home advantage there. But I really wanted to ask about y'all's opinion. Who do y'all prefer, Keandre Lambert-Smith or Sam Brown, and then I'll hang up and let y'all get all to it.
Okay.
That's a great last question.
It is.
Great
And let's
question.
keep in Keandre Lambert Smith has 1 year of eligibility left. Sam Brown Jr. has 2. I think anybody who writes about a transfer and doesn't put that in their article, how many years at the top, like I want to know immediately how many years does this guy have left. I think that's one of the most important things to know about a transfer. I've even told On 3 when writing these things, that needs to be in the lead or there shortly thereafter. Like that's important to me. So
Yeah.
So Keandre Lambert Smith, stud. Joe Brown. Sam Brown, stud. Jacksonville State, Penn State, 2 years, 1 year. If you had to pick, who you picking?
I'm really glad you asked this because I'm actually halfway through an article I'm calling Head to Head.
Oh,
we're going to put Keandre Lambert Smith and Sam Brown head to head. I'm going to do a whole breakdown. Maybe coming out after this show, maybe in the morning, depends on how long it takes me. But definitely read that, Elias. You're going to love it. It's going to be a very extensive breakdown, but I don't know yet because I'm going to watch their film a little bit more tonight. They're very close. I mean, when you're looking at stats, career stats for Lambert Smith, 126 catches, 1,721 yards, 11 touchdowns. That's in 3 years. Okay. Really, in what I would call 2 years at Houston, Sam Brown has 113 catches, 1,394 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Did I say Jacksonville State earlier?
Yay.
Who was, I'm thinking about that Ward guy. There was a guy from Jacksonville State. All right, my bad. Go ahead. I think his name was Lyman Ward.
There was a guy, but I don't remember his name. It wasn't
Larry Wart.
Bro, I don't know.
Larry Worth. Larry Worth. He's committed to Kansas. Oh, he's committed to Arkansas.
Good Lord. The linebacker.
Oh, is he a linebacker?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Oh, man. I was not following you until right then.
We're live, aren't we? You can't edit that out, can you?
No, baby. You got to leave that one in.
Yeah, that linebacker from, that's the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah.
All right, my bad, big dog.
No,
Houston, Sam Brown.
I'd probably give Lambert Smith the nod for what Auburn needs. As far as prospects, they're pretty similar, man. I like both of them. But Auburn needs a guy with experience. They both have a lot, but Lambert Smith has 1 extra year on him, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'd go with him.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Where do you think Auburn needs more help? Like, obviously, we know wide receiver, but Lambert Smith has experience playing in the slot. He has experience playing at both outside spots at both Z and X. I would say his best position, in my honest opinion, is in the slot. I thought that's where he had most of his production this past year. And Cole, when you do your breakdown, I'll be interested to see on the placement aspect of it. Sam Brown, to me, is a 100% featured outside wide receiver. That is what he is. And so I don't think he has as much range. Now, he could probably play in the slot, but I think he's been predominantly featured on the outside for Dana Holgorsen, and that's what the role he would fill for us. I think I favor Keandre Lambert Smith right now because of the 1 year. I like your point on the experience, Cole, but I also like the 1 year and it not necessarily impeding somebody like a Perry Thompson. And that's an easier sell for somebody like Perry because if Perry's playing behind him, we know he wants to be on the field. Yeah. In today's age of the transfer portal, it is a delicate balance. I mean, an extremely delicate balance with recruiting kids out of high school and being able to layer depth in a way that makes sense for you and also for the prospects. So they're not, constantly contemplating getting into the portal because they're not featured as a number 1 on the depth chart. I mean, I think coaches want to do away with damn depth charts, period, because they're so tired of the headache of kids saying like, well, if I'm not starting, but to me, that's just from a guy who's interested in roster composition and the pathway moving forward. Because of the experience, because of the multiplicity, I think the Lambert Smith makes more sense for us. But I think as far as naturally gifted, Sam Brown is the most naturally gifted wide receiver in the portal right now, in my honest opinion.
I'm going to take Keandre Lambert Smith too, only because I love the 1 year instead of the 2. I love that. And I also love his leadership, his maturity. I feel like Auburn needs that more than they need. all things equal on the field, and I don't know that they are or not, but I want that maturity, that experience, that leadership quality in that wide receiver room that I think so desperately needs because they're so young. And he even said that they were posing that challenge to him on his visit. Come in, take these guys under your wing, show them how to walk like a pro, show them what it takes to get to where you are. So I would take Lambert Smith and his leadership skills over that.
That by the way,
Elias.
Jeffrey, that's what I like the most about Lambert Smith is his football IQ is up there. There's a lot of clips you can find on him in big games. Michigan State, Iowa. For Penn State, these were their key games. He's just finding ways to shake open somehow, and he knows how to sit in the little zone hole. I put all this in there as his key trait because I think Sam Brown's key trait's more his athleticism, his ability to be able to get the ball. Not that Lambert Smith's not that guy, but dude, he knows football. He knows receiver. He knows how to play that position, and I think that would just help the room as a whole. Having a guy like that, they can learn from him. One, but two, just that's been the lacking thing for me with the receiver. Just knowing exactly where to be, knowing how to get there. I think that's what you need.
Think about having him, Sam Jackson, the young man from Georgia State. I think last year's transfer portal haul was out of necessity, but I think we've all heard differing things about the leadership that those guys provided or lack thereof.
Yes.
Move forward a year, and if you have those three in the room, I think we all think significantly different about the kind of leadership that will come out of that room at a minimum, and at a maximum, guys that will be more productive on the football field.
Good stuff, Elias. We appreciate your call from Coral Springs, Florida.
4003. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Gentlemen, this is Carter Mullen from Brookhaven. How about you?
Oh, how about you, old Bammer lover?
Hey, I got the Bama wife right here with me.
Oh,
all right.
How about that? Does she have an Aiden Holloway jersey on just yet?
She does not have an Aiden Holloway jersey on yet, thank God. But we just got back from our honeymoon, and it's been a while, so I just wanted to call in, and I wanted to ask y'all. I wanted to tell y'all a little intel I got. She's echoing me, trying to get me to not talk.
Okay.
From the honeymoon.
But I got some intel from a tight end in Alpharetta, Georgia, and he said that he got a pretty dang good shot with C.J. Wiley.
And, how about that?
I think we're going to get the job done there.
Okay.
I wonder if
that's
that's
a
a
teammate
teammate
more
of
often.
There is a teammate of old C.J. Wiley.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know who that is, Mr. G.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Ryan G. Yeah.
I've gotten to know Ryan a little well, and I wanted to ask y'all, if we were to land Julian Lewis, do you think that would have any enduring effect on us getting Caleb Cunningham? I know that he's from Mississippi. Do you think that would have a bigger effect on us getting him or Travis Smith? And I'll hang up and let y'all talk.
Hey, congratulations, Carter. Real happy for you, big dog.
Thank y'all so much. Y'all take care. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, sounds good. Great question, man, because if Auburn gets Juju Lewis, that's going to open up some wide receivers' eyes. So do you think it would have a bigger impact on a Travis Smith in Georgia or a bigger impact on Caleb Cunningham in Mississippi? I think just from familiarity, probably Travis Smith, although I think it's going to be tough to get him out of the state, just like I think it's going to be tough to get Caleb Cunningham out of the state.
I don't think it moves the needle much with Cunningham based on what he said is important to him. I mean, he's all about family, brotherhood. That's why we think in-state for him makes a lot of sense. So Travis Smith, I mean, maybe. He seems to be more business. So that would make sense. Sorry, Alan, I mean to cut you off, but CJ Wiley, that was a great note, man. We need to talk about him more.
Sure.
Trust me on that. Trust me on that.
and that's when we had an early eval on. I can remember doing a show, and he was ranked a 3-star, and both you and I were like, "Yeah, I would absolutely take that kid."
Yeah,
Auburn
him
felt
and
the same
Travis.
way. Yeah,
Travis
him
did.
and Auburn felt the same way. And now the recruiting services have started to play catch up on what we saw in C.J. Wiley. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to make it for a more interesting podcast. I'm going to say it's Sam Cunningham, because I think, even though as much as I think that kid is Mississippi made, Mississippi State is putting a ton of pressure on him. They're doing a fantastic job recruiting him. Juju Lewis is a game changer for a kid like him.
Sure.
He is an absolute game changer. When you think you can come in with a generational type quarterback, and if Auburn has this kind of season that I think they can have, which is 8 wins, maybe 9, if you get the right pieces in the portal, and Mississippi State has the kind of season I think they can have, which is 5 wins, 4 wins, maybe. You know what I mean?
Blown out by Ole Miss.
Does the perspective change because of the trajectory of the two different teams? So in that sense, I think Auburn might have a better shot with Cunningham. We know that Travis Smith, the biggest competition is Georgia, right? I mean, even though I think it's Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, and one other that he's talking to, maybe Alabama. It's Georgia. I mean, they've been on that kid hard for the last 2 years. And Kirby doesn't typically lose on the ones in Georgia. He really wants to win. Now he loses, particularly to, kids from Alabama, but on kids from Georgia. If the Georgia Bulldogs want them, that's a really tough matchup for Auburn. So I'm going to say Sam Cunningham. I think Caleb, sorry, not Sam. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't ever get names wrong, big dog.
Hey, bro, I'm just trying to bring like USC running backs back from like 1979. You know what I mean? Sam the Man Cunningham. We're playing in. My man called from Legion Field earlier. I'm trying to reincarnate that matchup all of a sudden.
Just, OJ.
Oh, yeah. The juice, baby. The juice is getting loose on the podcast.
Very insightful call there, Mr. Carter Malden.
That was great, man. A little intel.
Keep us posted on that, big dog.
Yeah.
And I believe I heard his wife in the background, RTR.
I'm sure she did. But look, you know what? She has very clearly stated her preference. He is a man, though, that is unwavering in his support of Auburn. It is a true house divided. Carter Malden, stay strong. Do not convert.
I kind of wanted to ask her what she thought about the Aiden Holloway thing.
Generational.
Sure. We got one more, Zach.
Yeah. 5202. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
How about you guys? Darren down here in Niceville.
Darren from Niceville. Thank you for not being a stranger, Darren from Niceville.
Yeah.
What's on your mind tonight, big dog?
Well, let me just start out first thing. My go-to drink, non-alcoholic, would be some good old Milo's tea.
Oh.
Ooh.
I can dig it.
And then when I need to, when it's been a real stressful day, and depending on the amount of, how much they get squeezed in there, in the old vice, then it could be either red wine, or if it's been one of them days, it could be Reposado tequila.
Oh.
And no mix.
I was going to say, you sip on your tequila like bourbon?
The brand that I got is called Husong's, and it's in a ceramic, like Granny used to drink out of, Jed Clamp and them used to drink out of. And I got it in Auburn, going to see Suni Lee, just happened to see the bottle, like the bottle at the store, and bought it, and I've been in love with it ever since. And it's unbelievable. First margarita ever made in Mexico was at a Husong's restaurant. So I've researched it since then, of course.
Now, how do you drink it?
Well, I just pour it up in a glass and drink. Just
like neat,
just like bourbon or a good whiskey. Just it's got a caramel, vanilla-y, buttery taste to it on that Reposado. So it's awesome.
Wow. Darren is
totally different.
Swinging low.
Yeah. Alan brought something up a while ago about kind of farm, the smaller schools, things like that. Ole Miss didn't do a spring game, did they?
They did not. They had Olympic sports types events and even a hot dog eating contest. Flag football tournament.
I think that son of a gun is pretty smart, because I think what you said was right along those lines. I believe that he doesn't want, hey, you know what? My second string or third string guys a starter for Arizona State or whoever, and they're getting playing time and on the field rather than being a quality backup for me, right?
I agree wholeheartedly, and I honestly believe, I don't know that Auburn will ever do the, fraternity sports flag football game that Lane Kiffin had going on out there and bringing in Joey Chestnut to do, a hot dog competition. But I can 100% see where Auburn just decides, you know what, we're going to make it just an open practice, and it's going to be truly a practice and not a scrimmage, so that they don't have to worry about that anymore. Still have fans be able to come in, still be able to watch people go through drills, all that other stuff. But you're right. There's so much out there now, and you're so worried about your roster day in, day out until you get through this transfer portal window about who's going to hop into the portal, who's being tampered with who, that you're trying not to identify at this stage in the game who's ones, twos, and threes. I mean, it's apparent amongst the team, like they know who the alphas are. But if you can do anything to help kind of mitigate some of what goes on, people are trying to do that. And honestly, short of them moving to a game where you can like move that FCS matchup that every SEC team has every year into the spring, short of doing that, I have no qualms about it. Like that would be legitimately, like that makes sense to me, to have like a real game against live competition so you can actually see what you have. But spring games are so basic, man. They're so vanilla. You're not getting anything out of that anyway. The only thing, if you're an opposing coach, the only thing you're getting out of that is what formations you're basing things out of. And that's pretty much it.
Well, from a fan standpoint, what the fun is getting those signatures, right? Everybody gets out on the field. We get to run down there, and you get to meet the kids and make sure they understand how much we appreciate them, because they work their asses off.
Agreed.
And they deserve a lot. And they need, there's so much now with Twitter and X and Facebook and all the stuff that somebody like me ain't never played a down of college football, may have an opinion, but it's all it is, because I really don't know. I've never run that stadium before. So sometimes it's best just to clam up, move to the next topic, and quit bashing these kids, because I think an Aiden Holloway going out as bad as he went out may have had some contribution from social media, a bad taste in his mouth, because I know he got beat up pretty bad on social media by Auburn fans, not hitting 3-pointers and everything else, but still throw the coach under the bus was kind of a bad way to go out. Something else for the group here, just an idea. How many L's? Because I'm from Enterprise, Alabama, is where I'm from. So I'm hoping we pull. But I'm from the old days when Allen, 79, when we won the state championship, 83. I graduated 83 from Enterprise. Carlos Robinson and all that group.
So you played with Allen Evans then?
Oh, yeah. Because Bear came. Bear would come to the school, and he'd shake your hands, and he passed by. I got to slap hands. But he came and took all the kids he wanted back up to Tuscaloosa, because he didn't have no 25 limit. You just came and got them, and he did. He came and presented the state trophy, and this was going back to Alabama. And Allen Evans never even got to start because of a fellow named Bo. And Allen was a really good running back, y'all. He was. How many L's, though? How many L's is DeBoer going to be afforded before the product on the field is not the standard, and these kids look at it and say, right now, it's Alabama, and they're paying the money, and I'm going to go. But if he loses 3 games this year or 4 games, does that turn, no pun intended, the tide here in state that Auburn now is kind of like when Pat died and Bear left, how that kind of, just y'all's thoughts on the L's there.
I think that's a great question. I'm at 3. Zach, you say no?
Because
4?
Auburn's probably not winning 9 games this year. So if they
if Auburn goes 8-4 and Bama goes 9-3.
What I think it does do, Jeffrey, is that the recruiting the momentum that Auburn has in recruiting will continue to trend. I think national perception will be still that they're going to give Alabama the benefit of the doubt. They've been a brand for long enough, and Kalen DeBoer has enough friends. I mean, look, dude, Jimmy Sexton's his agent, and he'll make sure that he gets wall-to-wall coverage, and the cleansing of the palate will ensue directly thereafter the season about how they're going to fix why they lost 3 games this year. But I think what you'll be able to do is for Auburn to continue to recruit at the level they're recruiting at right now underneath Hugh Freeze, and maybe even step it up a notch the next year. If they have 2 years in a row where it's beneath Alabama's standard, then I think you'll start to see panic amongst the fan base of, well, this isn't what Nick Saban left. This isn't how Saban operated. Fair or unfair in this era, I think that Nick Saban was the cracks were already starting to show with this year's team, and I think it was only going to continue to get harder for him in this era of NIL and transfer portal to continue to have the kind of dominance that Alabama had. I don't know that that's attainable moving forward. Kirby Smart is a perfect test case for that. We'll see what they're able to do. But it's just so hard, man, to keep the core of your roster together right now with the way everything is. I mean, it's pure pandemonium. But I think it's going to be 2 years of 3 or more losses, and Alabama fans will start to say, do we have Ray Perkins on our hands? You know what I mean? Like, can DeBoer do it at this level with this kind of pressure? Because yes, he's been coaching in the Power 5, and he is a fantastic football coach. But the kind of pressure and scrutiny that comes in that Alabama job, I mean, it's like nothing he's ever been prepared for in his life, period. There's nothing – I mean, you are more popular than the governor. You were legitimately maybe the most powerful person in the state, honestly. You know what I mean? Or most popular anyway.
Sure.
Unless he goes out there and just falls on his face. I just don't know if this year, 1 year is enough to flip what? I mean, it's been since what, 08? Flip almost. I mean, that many years of dominance is crazy. I just think Auburn's going to need at least 2 more years and then show that they can win under Hugh Freeze. That's the key is not only does Bama have to keep losing, Auburn's got to go win something eventually.
Well, and they got to beat Alabama too.
Yeah.
Now because that was the thing that propelled Dye is that 9-3 season. He beats Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Bo goes, you know what I mean, wild down the sideline. I think Keith Jackson from Auburn's up there in your face to the Alabama correspondent, you know what I mean? So it's going to take a moment like that for Auburn. They're going to have to win the Iron Bowl. And 2, like Zach said, they're going to have to play for something, and Alabama's going to have to continue to trend towards a level that's not necessarily what they're accustomed to.
Well, if Alabama finishes 9-3, they're likely out of playoffs, right? They're not playing for anything.
I wouldn't think so, but who's on their schedule?
If they lose to Georgia is 1 loss, and then they lose to, let's say, who I got to pull up because without divisions, I was going to say Ole Miss, but I don't know if does Bama play Ole Miss this year?
I don't think so. I think they got LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, maybe, or do they have Oklahoma?
My line of thinking is, how many losses will Alabama have this year where recruits will go, there's nothing special about Alabama anymore?
Ooh, and that speaks to my point about us continuing momentum in recruiting. Whether perception is, nationally speaking, Alabama's on the decline. Recruiting, different deal.
Okay, that was my whole line of thinking was Alabama has been up here, Georgia's been up here, in the SEC. Those 2 teams have been up here. Everybody else. Now, if Alabama loses 3 this year, they're inching back down to where I believe the recruits' perception will be. It's not Saban, and Auburn's at 8-4, Alabama's at 9-3. Who knows what happens in the Iron Bowl? But I think there at least the thought will begin that maybe the perception will begin that maybe Alabama's not so special anymore.
Cole, I want to hear your thought on this, but Jeffrey, you just said something that made me think. Alabama 9-3, Auburn 8-4. Hugh Freeze took over a program that was in complete shambles, 5-7, right? He's now built them to 8-4, and there's a 1-game difference in between you and Alabama. In recruiting, Alabama can't say we're the standard anymore at that point, right? When there's a 1-game differential. And you took over a team that just played for the national 2 years straight in the playoffs, right?
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Hugh Freeze. Hey, look at you,
Yeah.
damn it.
I know. I get him every time, every week now.
I was thinking Hugh Freeze has taken over that 5-7 team, and in 2 years has them at 8 wins. 1 year he's brought them down to 9 wins.
Brought them down to 9, and they were just comparatively speaking, Alabama was just in, you know what I mean, the playoffs.
SEC champs.
SEC champions. And now it feels like the trend is going in a different direction within the state. So I think from a recruiting perspective, that is an easy pitch on Hugh Freeze's part of, look what I've done so far. You're my final piece. Whereas the pitch from Alabama now becomes, well, help us reinstall the legacy. Okay, help us continue the standard. Well, the standard you set this year is not what Nick Saban was doing. So do we trust you? Do we trust you to get it back? And that's what you don't know. You know what I mean? And I'll be interested to see how that storyline plays out. That's an interesting storyline to me.
Fantastic call from Darren. Darren's great. You know what Darren also does? Even though some of the callers forget about the question of the week, which it was, he always comes through and he's like, "Hey, I remember. I'm gonna give you my question."
Do we want to talk about what he mentioned about Aiden Holloway for just a second? Does anybody want to give that any?
Sure. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wish the kid well. Hope he does fine. He said what he was feeling, not facts. Okay. He was the leading 3-point shot taker on this team.
Are you serious?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Bruce did not take the ball out of his hand. The kid played poorly. I'm sorry that he played poorly. I hope he does well moving forward in his career. But the difference between feelings and facts. I used to have a captain that I worked for that told me, Alan, apply for as many jobs as you possibly can, because when you put things down on a resume, you have to put facts. And it allows you not to lie to yourself. Aiden Holloway, I'd challenge you not to lie to yourself and take a look at the facts, brother. Now, again, wish you the best.
When I speak on basketball, I want y'all to know that I don't know much about basketball. I want to be very clear on that. I like to speak on things I know about, which is football. I know a lot about football. Don't know a whole lot about basketball. But I would argue that Bruce did not take the ball out of Aiden Holloway's hands. He actually put it in his hands as the point guard. Now, I didn't watch any of Aiden Holloway's film as a high school recruit. Obviously, he was really good. That dude is a catch and shoot guy. When he gets the ball on a catch and shoot situation as not the point guard, as not the main ball handler, he was pretty accurate. I'd like to know what the stats were on his catch and shoot. Probably good. If Alabama uses him that way, he's going to be really good for them. I truly believe that. If they try to make him a point guard, it's probably going to be some of the same things you saw. Maybe he might get better at that too. But I don't think the guy's a bad shooter by any means. I think he had a rough streak, and that's just how I see it. And again, don't know much about basketball at all.
No, and I think your points are valid. He's definitely a skilled young man. And to your point about a catch and shoot, he played 2 guard all the way up until his senior year at Prolific Prep.
Okay, that makes sense.
He then transitioned to point guard, and I spoke to an AAU coach that had watched Aiden a lot, and they basically said to me, I think Auburn should have taken a veteran point to help him, because it is going to be a transition for him when he gets into the league that he's not necessarily prepared for. And it definitely, you could tell that it affected his confidence. And once his confidence started to wane, the shot just never really, you saw what he's capable of in that Baylor game. You saw what he was capable of against Indiana. But confidence is like money, man. You know what I mean?
He started correct if I'm wrong, Alan. He started the Georgia game at the end of the year, started every game after that. He scored 15 points in his first start, never scored above 10 again, and had 3 games with 0 points, including 2 of the final 3.
Yep.
He just
Jeff-
wasn't ready to be a starting point guard in the SEC.
Not in my opinion. Now, will he end up being a good player? I think he will. I think ultimately Aiden Holloway will be a very good player. But I think he needs to not skirt narrative, take what this season was, which was a learning curve, and I hope moving forward in his career at Alabama that he does quite well. But be honest with yourself, son, and own mistakes that you make, own your own play. That's the only way we improve in life. And I was going to finish my quote: confidence is like money; it takes some to make some.
You're muted.
That's better than mine. Oh crap! I that's the only, and I don't know about Aiden off the court.
Yeah,
or what was going on, but I know that he's a good player, and
Yeah.
that's the only reason I was I would have liked to see him mature and develop, and because he's going to be a really good player, and it might be next year.
Yeah.
That's why I hated to see him go.
Sure. I mean, I think everybody, if people in the chat right now or people online or wherever saying Aiden Holloway is a bad player, I fundamentally disagree with you.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think he's a very good player. I think he will be a good player, but I think his confidence absolutely cost him this year in his performance. And I think Auburn decided that they needed a guarantee at the point guard position with what they're returning on the rest of the court. JP Pegues is a sure thing, whereas Aiden Holloway is a growth and projection project right now.
Well, Alan, do you remember the 5-star? Was it Traore that Auburn brought in? And he had to leave, and everyone was saying he was a bust. If you go watch the film from this year, I think Santa Barbara, the kid was balling for them, and he's finally starting to kind of come into his own. I think that's kind of what the trajectory that Aiden has to take as well in his career.
Yeah. I got a question for the basketball people on this show. I'm looking at you, Alan, and Zach. You seem to have some pretty good. So, do y'all remember how Rodney Garner was at Auburn? Rodney Garner, he brought in elite talent, a good bit. Sometimes he ran them off. Sometimes they couldn't handle Rodney. And do you think that there's something similar in Bruce? Maybe not in a harsh way, but in a, if you don't fit in my system, you're not going to make it here way.
I don't think it's the system. I think Bruce is brutally honest with kids, and he coaches them hard. I mean, I think he only knows one way to coach, and that's to coach you as absolutely as hard as he can and also love you up as hard as he can off the court. That is my understanding of Bruce Pearl. The kids play hard for him because they know he's genuinely invested. But on the court, like in practice, look, man, I mean, he's got some Rodney Garner to him. I wouldn't say he's like dropping F-bombs the way Rodney would. You know what I mean? Rodney's unique now.
Look, that's not to say Rodney did anything wrong. Rodney was great. When he got his guys, he was awesome. But he did run some off that you were like, man, that guy could have been good. He just couldn't mesh.
No, Rodney only knew one way to coach, right? You know what I mean? And again, you're right. He's old school. You're talking about a guy that went through 3-a-days underneath Pat Dye. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, you were lucky to make it through fall camp. And then you take that kind of mentality in today's age with some of these kids with what they're exposed to. Some of them are coming from single parent homes. Some of them, you know, they haven't had the most discipline that they've ever had to deal with. And then you get put in a room with Rodney Garner, who doesn't accept anything less but your absolute best at every single moment in the building. It's a difficult transition for some of those kids. And I think Bruce has a similar expectation of getting the absolute best out of somebody, and he will not settle for anything less than that. He pushes you to be your absolute best. And the best coaches that I've ever had and the best coaches that I see in this game still, Danny Hurley coaches those kids incredibly hard. It looks like he's going to have an aneurysm on the court every time he comes on. You know what I mean? Whether he's screaming at his kids or screaming at the ref. But they also know that he's invested in them and he gets the absolute best out of them. Bruce is very much cut from the same cloth, minus the crazy things that the Hurley brothers do. But it just, you know what I mean? Like he's hard on them, but he loves them too. You know what I mean? Like it's genuine with Bruce, and there's no question about that.
Yeah, that's I think Hurley said it best because Hurley and Bruce coach very similarly. Where I mean, like they've all been to the top and they know what it takes. And in basketball, especially with the way players can go to the draft, and now you also got the 1 year transfer portal, your window is very short in basketball. And so I think it also increases the urgency when you have talent on the roster that you know can reach a potential and they don't reach it when they're supposed to. Sometimes, like with Aiden, you got to move on and go get you someone who can win now.
Sure.
And
I need to work out for both.
Right. And I don't think Aiden wasn't cut, in my opinion, but they were going to go get a point guard.
Yeah.
And if he was not okay with that, then you could leave. You know what I mean?
Right. This is what we're going to do.
Right.
Accept it or move on. I mean,
Correct.
This is how we're doing it.
Right. I think it was almost that straightforward, if I'm being honest.
Well, we'll be curious to see how that pans out. I do think it was best for both. I think Aiden will be a fantastic player. I think he is a fantastic player. He'll polish his skills, and I think it was a fantastic upgrade for Auburn with JP Pegues. Really looking forward to him, a guy who can score, leadership standpoint. He's got it all. I think it was an awesome grand slam for Auburn in that acquisition. All right, well, we're going to end it there. We'll be back. We'll be back Wednesday. We'll have another recruiting show Wednesday morning coming out. Y'all be on the lookout for that. If you haven't already, go to Auburn Live YouTube page, or YouTube page that you're on right now. Click that subscribe button, man. I got the 10K in my site. I'm fascinated on that 10K.
I hope we can get there. I would love this. We need to plan to do something special for the 10K. Let's get together offline. You know what I mean?
Either we wax our nose hairs.
Ooh.
We eat like a hot chili thing, or we do the smelling salts or something like that.
Can we make Cole like just shave the beard and have nothing but a mustache?
Oh.
Nope. Zach first.
Oh, hey.
I'll do it with Cole. Me and Cole will both come on just the mustache.
See, I come on with just a mustache, but then Child Protective Services be calling me shortly thereafter.
Look, something might happen to my camera if we have to do all that now.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
We will be back Wednesday. Y'all go subscribe to our YouTube page, please. It will help us immensely. We appreciate you, man. Again, we'll be back Wednesday. One more time, if you're in Auburn, Opelika, Lee County, give her a call, folks. She is fantastic. Number one realtor in my eyes. Jessica Andrews with the Talents Group, 334-704-4442. She's a 5-star realtor. Give her a call and tell her we sent you. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Like I said, we'll be back Wednesday. We'll also be back next Sunday night. Appreciate Kevin from getting us started. Anthony, calling in, Hunter, War Dank, Ricky, Elias, Carter, and Darren with the finale. Fantastic show, man. We appreciate everybody calling. We appreciate everybody watching. We appreciate everybody listening. We truly do, man. For Cole, for Zach in the back who came to the front, for Mr. Allen Head, I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out of that left lane. See ya.